Hey guys, I'm back. We're getting ready to do a video on function notation. I love function notation. I get very excited about function notation. But we start looking at this kind of like 8th grade-ish, and then it kind of builds through the later years. The really cool thing about function notation is, like, while you have to know how to do it, or you need to know how to do it by hand, and I'm going to show you that, it's also one of those things that Desmos can do for you, okay? So I want to show you that also. For those of you that don't know, Desmos is a graphing calculator that is absolutely mind-blowing, okay? It does so much stuff for you, and a lot of schools now are letting students in the SAT, I think homeschool some of the testing. I know some of the like public school state testing will let you use Desmos graphing calculator, okay? And kids are actually starting to use that. Teachers are starting to use Desmos in like as early as middle school so that they're growing on that, okay? I could do a whole video on Desmos, and I will. But for now, I'm going to do this video on function notation. Function notation is basically where you are given a function, which is a fancy word for an equation, and you are plugging in a value to figure out what the whole function value is. That's going to make more sense when I show it to you. Unfortunately, sometimes in math, I told my students today, sometimes it's easier to show than to explain. So let's get to it. Okay, so let's get to this. All right, so this is function notation. You'll also hear it referred to as evaluating functions because you're evaluating to find out what the final value is. So this is a function. Quick notes. This f of x just means the function of whatever our x is, okay? So whatever our f of x is going to equal whatever this is. And we're going to be finding f of 3. That's our example we're going to be working through today. So a couple of things I need you to remember. I tell my kids all the time, f of x is a fancy way of saying y. Again, that's going to make more sense in a second, so stick with me. All right, your x value is your x coordinate. And when you put these together, you're going to get your solution point. So what that means is you are going to actually have an answer that is going to be in the form of x, y, okay? When you're talking about graphing, that's important. So this can also be done on Desmos like we just talked about. So your x and y, I'm going to talk about that again some more in a second, but go ahead and screenshot this paper if you need the notes. Okay, awesome. All right, so let's go. So we're getting ready to do our first example by hand. So just a couple of things. For this, our x value for our solution coordinate is going to be, so we have our xy. Most of you guys, even if it's been a minute, you remember graphing and you remember your xy coordinates. Your x value is whatever is in that f of x. So in this instance, it is going to be 3. Now, remember I said on the previous screen that f of x is a fancy way of saying y. So we could, and I'm going to kind of do really weird here, but I'm going to put this as a highlighter, and I'm going to look at this, and I'm going to put a y there, because I want you to remember, actually I want to do that in a different color. Okay, so I'm going to put a y there, because I want you to remember that f of x is just a fancy way of saying y. So whatever we find out that this is equal to, that is going to be our y value, okay? So let's do, and an example of this might be if, I don't know, if this was an equation that talked about how many, I don't know, how much money somebody got paid, blah, 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 blah. Your x would be like, if we were saying hours, and then your y would be, when we solve this, this would be like, okay, well, if I worked 3 hours, this would, whatever this value is, would be how much I got paid, okay? So that's hard to explain like in 2 seconds, but hopefully if you're watching this, you have some kind of background, or at least your student has at least seen this, okay? So that should make more sense to them. So by hand, we are going to just plug in f of 3. So again, we're going to say that f, I'm going to put f of x since that's what we have, or f of 3 rather. And wherever we have an x, we're going to put in 3. So we have 5. And if you've watched my videos, you know I'm a big color person. So I'm going to put where I'm plugging in, I'm going to just put in blue. Okay. So as you're seeing, everywhere that I have an X, I am just putting 3 instead of the x. So we're just going to solve this, okay? So 3 squared, or 3 to the second power is the same thing as 3 times 3. So 3 times 3 is 9. All right. And then negative 3 times positive 3. If you've seen my other videos, remember if you're multiplying a positive number times a negative number, your answer is going to be negative. Okay, and then we have plus 2. So we're still moving this along, okay? 5 times 9 is 45 minus 9 plus 2. And then 45 minus 9 is 36 plus 2 is 38. Oh, I keep wanting to put f of x. Let's just erase that. There we go. All right. So f of 3 is going to be 38. That means, I'm going to actually erase this because I don't like this right here. Oh, hush. All right. I talk to the computer all the time, guys. I fuss at my computer all the time. All right. So my solution set, or my solution point is 3 is my x value and 38 is my y value. And again, going back to the example that I used a minute ago, I have no idea if that would make sense because I was just coming up off the top of my head. But if I was saying this was an equation to figure out how much somebody got paid for X number of hours, for 3 hours, the person would get paid $38. Okay, again, that's just an example. This could be for anything. Go ahead and screenshot that. That's how we do it by hand. We're getting ready to look at it by Desmos. Okay. All right, so let's pull up my Desmos. I already have it on here. All right, so, whoops, I didn't mean to do that. Here is the example, okay? I just typed in the function, okay? So when you're using Desmos graphing, you have a typewriter down here. Can you see that? Yes. And it does all the stuff for you, okay? So when I was doing this, since I had to have f of x, I did have to go to my ABC, do the f, and then parentheses, x, parentheses, and then do all the things. It graphed it for me, okay? So my graph is right here. That's what we call a parabola. This is a quadratic. I can do more into that. And I'm looking at where my x value is 3, because I'm looking for f of 3. What is my y value? So when I come over here and my x value is 3, it's all the way up here, okay? So f of 3 is all the way up here. You can't even see it on the screen. But I don't even have to worry about that because once I have my function, I've told Desmos, hey, I want you to use this function. All I have to do, this is the coolest thing ever, guys, is go to the next line and I have to put my f, because it's recognizing that function as f of x. And then I just have to do parentheses. I said I wanted it to tell me what f of 3 is, and it does it for me. Okay? So the cool thing about Desmos is once you get the function in, you can do this. You could just put in what it needs. If I wanted to do f of 0, I could do f and then parentheses, 0, parentheses, and it was going to tell me that when my my x value is 0, my y value is 2, okay? And if you look at that, it says x value is 0, y value is 2, okay? So, so let me get, okay. Okay, so this video is a little bit longer because I was showing you by hand and on Desmos. Desmos is amazing, guys. I tell my kids all the time, I have to show you how to do it by hand because technically you need to know that, but Desmos does it for you. And I could go into so much more about that, guys. Hopefully this helped. If you have any questions, please comment, follow, let me know if there's anything else you want to see. Please let me know, okay? Because I want to do what you guys need. Thanks.